Pleased to present Austin Faith Dialogue, brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries. In the weeks ahead, you will see these and other programs by various denominations. Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs series at the crossroads of religion and life. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues in the area in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Join us now for this week's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, and welcome once again to Austin Faith Dialogue. This is a program put together each week in a way to visit with you by the churches of Austin. And although we have among us now things that we call mega churches, churches that draw from an entire metropolitan area, most of our churches are concerned about the area close around, the neighborhood. And we want to visit today about churches and neighborhoods. We want to visit about a need that's developed over the last 20 or 25 years as neighborhoods began to experience tremendous problems. Violence, inadequate police protection, deteriorating houses, a breakdown of community spirit. And something began to develop in different parts of the country, and it's been very strong here in Texas in the last 10 or 15 years, called community organizing. And in Austin, we're very fortunate to have a group called Austin Interfaith. And with us today from Austin Interfaith is Mr. Joe Higgs, an organizer of Austin Interfaith, and Betty Castro, a volunteer teacher and a very successful leader in the whole Interfaith program. Joe, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your own organization. I might come back and ask about some of the other organizations around the state of Texas and how Austin Interfaith relates to them. But how is Austin Interfaith doing, and what are you doing?
Sure. Good morning, Bishop. Austin Interfaith is an organization of about 30 congregations here in Austin. It consists of Catholic churches, of Protestant churches, of a wide variety, Presbyterian, Methodist. We're black, we're white, we're Hispanic, and we're geographically diverse. We really are very consciously trying to take in churches in all parts of Austin with different needs, with different types of contributions to be able to make to our community. So we put a real emphasis on bringing together very diverse people who are working for the common good and are really trying to work with one another to determine what that common good is for their families, their congregations, and the city of Austin.
Well, put some flesh on that, if you will, Joe. What is a Presbyterian church in North Austin and a Roman Catholic church in East Austin? What will they come together and work on?
Well, we work on issues that really do come to us from the congregations, that what congregations see as the primary needs that are facing their families. And so, for instance, some of the things we're working on and have been working on are things like improving quality public education, providing health care, especially for low-income families, working and poor families, providing neighborhood security, because everybody throughout Austin is concerned about the safety of their families. We're also beginning to do some work on developing job training for young adults, the people who are skilled, who have some basic literacy, but who are caught in $4 and $5 an hour jobs because they don't have adequate training to go on to better jobs. So we find there's a lot of commonalities, whether they're white or black, whether they're relatively affluent or poor.
Do you have any trouble moving back and forth between these congregations and developing a rapport? Congregations have personalities and styles and traditions. It seems to me that there has to be a lot of commonality among them in order to be able to work together on such complicated issues.
Well, that's true, Bishop, and part of what we really, I think the fundamental thing we try to do is teach people how to work in public life together. We teach them how to negotiate, how to disagree, how to understand the differences between groups.
So inside of Interfaith, you got an educational program.
Absolutely.
And Betty, I know that you're an educator. How
correct.
do you fit into the overall operation of Interfaith?
As an educator, I have seen a lot of problems that have arisen in the schools. I worked in public education for about 20 years now.
You must have started at 6.
I started quite a while ago, and I've seen a lot of things that need to be changed, things that need to be different, and so then my part is to be a member, an active member, and then to help train parents to see the issues that need to be fixed in the public school system, and that is the part that I play.
Well, to me that's interesting. You really got a two-tiered educational program, one for your own members inside the life of the organization, and if I understand you correctly, their views, their values, their experiences provides your agenda, and that overflows then into our concern about education in the larger community, public education. Am I correct in that?
That's absolutely right. What we are really about is leadership development and formation. And we begin with really developing the leaders in our congregations. And those leaders develop by going out and working with people in the schools and in the community. So our concentration is developing leaders through our congregations, but by extension, we're beginning to work quite actively in the public school system. And for instance, I know we met with earlier this week a couple of parents who we're working with in 2 of East Austin's schools, 2 of really the poorest schools, and they reflected some about their experiences with Austin Interfaith, and we may want to show that tape as the program goes on.
Well, if I understand correctly, though, you've been politically active as well. I'm not too sure how that works. You were very visible 2 years ago in the bond election here in Austin. What's your relationship with AISD? Is it a congenial one, a partnership, antagonistic?
I would say that it's we butt heads at times, we hold hands at times. Generally, we try to move forward with
Sounds like
improving
a
our
marriage
schools.
to me.
It's a lot like that, I think. And one of the times when we held hands was 2 years ago to get a bond package passed, because we knew, looking at the schools all over Austin, that we could not educate our children in inadequate, deteriorating facilities. And so after a previous bond election had failed in 1989, our leaders went out, worked with the community, found out where the needs were and where people would support building schools. Actually, 2 of our leaders wrote the bond package, and then we worked about 30 precincts, particularly in East Austin, to get the vote out. And where the previous bond election had failed by 20 points, this one passed by about 15 points.
Betty, I know that you're a teacher. Are you currently teaching? Are you still active?
Yes, I am. I'm still in the classroom.
That gives you a double frame of reference then,
That is
doesn't it?
correct.
You see the problems from the perspective of a full-time professional educator and also a member of a key neighborhood organization that wants to help guide or at least have a voice. Any tension there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is, but I would like to piggyback a little bit on what Joe said as far as the working relationship with the Austin Independent School District. I think that it's a very good working relationship. We have worked on something that is called SBI, which is School Site-Based Management, and that has brought a lot of different changes into the school system, whereas essentially it's a shift in authority and decision-making powers from the state and the district level to the campus level. And
how far along is that? I've been hearing about the need for site-based management for years, but has it been implemented?
It's been around now. We're going into our 3rd year.
For every school?
Yes, it's
Really?
now in every
Wonderful.
school. And so that some of the problems have arisen because of lack of training and because of lack of guidelines. And so that what Austin Interfaith has done is worked with the independent school district, made some suggestions, and the school district has taken up some of those suggestions that we have made. And so that it's working, it is a good working relationship.
That's marvelous. What do you see in terms of the next step as far as interfaith and education in the greater Austin area?
Well, there are several areas that, as Joe mentioned also, that Austin Interfaith is now involved in. And one of those is the Alliance Schools Project. And that is taking place in Zavala Elementary. It's a program to work with low-income and poorly achieving schools. And what we do is go in and help do a situational audit where parents look to see what the problems are in the neighborhood and in the school, and then go about
situational audit now. Does that mean what's wrong?
Yeah, what is wrong, what is working, what is not working, and things that need to be improved, so that then they not only discuss the problems, but also come up with an action agenda.
Well, let me ask both of you, what about, you mentioned that in one case, what about overall parental involvement in the areas where you work? And are you making any progress in that? It seems to me one of the problems in American society is that we have two parents working, they come home late, that it's hard to get parents directly involved, at least a high enough percentage of them directly involved in the needs of the local school. How are you, I know you've got one program there, but what else are you doing and what kind of progress are you making?
Well, Bishop, I think we find parents are especially low-income communities, are oftentimes quite isolated, oftentimes don't have much of a relationship with the school because of sometimes their own bad experiences with school. And oftentimes, all schools are asking parents to do is sell pickles and participate in fairly meaningless activities. What we find is when we ask parents not to be cookie makers, but decision makers, they want to participate. When we give parents a meaningful role and an opportunity to contribute to their child's education, they're there, and they're there in numbers. So
now you're offering that participation through Interfaith, and the Interfaith is the voice in dealing with the school. Are you motivating them to go into the structure of the home and school relationship and dealing? I don't understand exactly where they exercise that voice.
Let me give you an idea, Bishop. I think that I can. I had a child in my classroom last year, and her parent was minimally active in the school. But then the following year, she came back as PTA president. She came back addressing issues, asking questions about how things were run in the school. And then that initially, if you will, turned me on to Austin Interfaith because I knew that that's where she had received some of that training. And
that's how you got involved.
Exactly. And so
you saw the effects
she invited me, yes, and I saw the effects, and I thought, this is where parental action needs to be. And so then she invited us to attend meetings as teachers of that particular school. And then so we became more involved through her participation, through her leadership.
That's wonderful. Joe, I know you did an earlier interview of several people. Would this be an opportune time to run it?
I think it would be. The two people who are on tape are Ophelia Maldonado and Paula Simpson, both of whom are parents with whom we're working. And I think their comments speak for themselves in terms of how they see Interfaith in our work together.
It's helped me to reach out and step out in faith, like to say, because it's not really what religion you are. It's that we all are the same, and we can help one another. And I feel like I'm doing that by reaching the parents in our schools, and then being involved in the community, also reaching those children and parents who are not involved in the churches.
Working with Austin Interfaith has given me energy and just a sense of belonging as a parent, a sense of having a real, somewhat of a say as to what's going on. It's made me become more aware of issues and things that before were really never quite a concern to me. It's just given me just bubbling energy that I just wish that all parents could share in the energy that it's put in me. I want to go out and recruit everybody that I can, tell them all about what's going on in the school. I've just become possessed with the facts that Austin Interfaith has made me just this much more knowledgeable about what's going on, and I'm just ready to take on all the parents and give them that information so that they can become more involved. And it's just really great. I enjoy it a lot. I know that one day, all children will benefit from it, and that's what I'm all about. I love children, and I just want to see them excel and grow and become better little human beings, and just Austin Interfaith, it just gives me that sense of belonging, and it's also based on a stern foundation of churches, and that's pretty basically where it gets started at. That's where it's at. It's with the churches, I think.
Well, Joe, Betty, that was really wonderful. That kind of enthusiasm, that kind of drive from people who were earlier very passive, that's wonderfully encouraging. I want you to know I share that enthusiasm for the concept of interfaith. I first got involved with this kind of organization about, I guess, 20 years ago in San Antonio, when I saw a terribly run-down barrio where children would drown in deep ditches when there would be sudden downpours, when the whole blocks were abandoned cars, were rat-infested, inadequate street lighting. It was just a terrible place. And I saw the neighborhood come together and organize, and the end product would be the transformation of the neighborhood, where the people took possession of their lives and their homes and their families again. And transformation was tremendous. But when they started, they terrified the business community. The community thought it was a group of outside agitators. What do these people? When they wanted to talk to the mayor, he wouldn't see them. When they wanted to talk to the business community, they wouldn't meet with them. I don't think that's the situation today. What's changed over the last 15 or 20 years so that, not that you're in agreement on everything, but there's an ability to talk and communicate with business leaders in San Antonio and Houston and the Rio Grande Valley and Dallas, and thanks be to God, here in Austin. What's brought that about?
Well, I think two things, Bishop. One of them is that I think the business community has looked to what the future of the state of Texas and in fact the nation will be, and they've begun to see that 20 years from now there will be as many African American and Hispanic people in the state of Texas as there are Anglo people, and we can't afford to lose any of those school children. If we're going to be competitive in the world market, all of those kids have to have world-class educations. And in order to do that, they have to be healthy, they have to live in safe communities, they have to have good homes. So I think one thing is they see that this country is not going to work unless those young people are educated. Secondly is frankly, I think we have a track record of being able to work with business, to negotiate with them. We have ideas, and we bring ideas into the public forum and debate them. And I think we're reasonable with them, and we work hard to be successful in the projects we take on. So I think that's the other reason, is we have a track record of being successful in the development of people.
And development of people requires resources, and in our society, resources are produced by individuals and families by jobs. So have you ever done anything in direct cooperation with the business community? I'm not just talking about toleration, I'm talking about interlocking activities.
Well, I think one of the most exciting projects that we have going now is a partnership with the business community called the Shechem Compact. Shechem is the place in the Old Testament where the tribes of Israel came together.
Don't move into my territory.
All right, Bishop.
Just keep going on.
As you know, for the audience. In any case, the Shechem Compact is a partnership in which the business community has agreed to work with us to create some incentives for kids to graduate. And I think, Betty, you could probably comment.
Yes. As we all know, there's a dire problem of students dropping out from school, and those that do graduate sometimes do not have the skills with which to compete in the job market. So what Austin Interfaith has done is enter into a partnership with businesses, the Austin Chamber of Commerce, to provide jobs for these children as they graduate. The qualifications are rather simple. They have to have a 2.5 grade point average, and they also have to have a 95% attendance rate in school. Currently, the project is working in 4 high schools here in Austin, and they have over 200 students. And what they do is they provide preferential job interviews for these children, and they also offer $1 above the minimum wage in order to encourage students to stay in school, graduate, and go into the job market. And of these 200, about 85, 2/3 of those 85 seniors who have graduated are now placed in with top firms throughout the city and are doing quite well.
That's a great story. That's something. Maybe I'm ignorant, but I think we need to tell more people about that, and we need to move that 285 to 2,850.
Hopefully what we would like to happen also would be that businesses would then begin to contribute for scholarship funds for these students also who may want to go on to college.
We'll be right back after this message.
Serving Austin means serving you. Each day, Austin Metropolitan Ministries is religion in action, providing affordable housing, caring for the elderly, marching against hunger, and much more. AMM promotes understanding, cooperation, and social involvement. So when we ask for your help, we're really asking to help you, Austin. To find out how you can help Austin Metropolitan Ministries help Austin through its member organizations, just call 472-7627.
Welcome back. We're talking today with Joe Higgs and Betty Castro about Austin Interfaith. Betty, you mentioned some wonderful things in terms of education, in terms of the way Austin Interfaith reaches into the lives of people. What are the other major issues that you're struggling with? Or maybe not struggling with, maybe you're winning.
Well, one of the things that we also have discovered is that we would wish that children would come into the classroom and be ready to learn, but sometimes there are problems such as health issues that allow a child to stay out of school because they have no health care, they cannot afford it. And so one of the things that Austin Interfaith is working with is to provide health care to the children of Zavala Elementary. And Joe, I believe, just received word that the city is going to contribute monies to see that many of the children there receive complete health screenings. Is that
What will that include, Joe?
Well, we're starting in September or October. The city of Austin is going to place 2 full-time people at Zavala Elementary School to give full medical exams to all 400 students, so that those kids will have the best kind of medical exam that really that money can buy, and identifying any kinds of medical needs that they might have. And then we're going to work with the city and the rest of the provider community to try to help if those kids need treatment, if they need glasses, if they need hearing aids, if they need any kind of treatment to be fully ready to learn. And frankly, you know, we see, Bishop, there's a tremendous crisis in healthcare in Austin. There's 120,000 people without insurance, and many of those families don't get health care at all except in emergency situations which end up costing them and all of us a whole lot more money than if they could have been handled in a preventive or primary care way.
I want to go back to what Betty said, that she wants to teach a group of children who come into the classroom ready to learn. But, you know, I don't ordinarily think of that myself. My job goes on and occasionally I get ill and that I lose a day here or something like that. But there's a tremendous overlap, isn't there, in your goals for education and the quality of health care available to these young people, so that you can't solve the educational problems without reaching over into the health field too. I don't think most of us, I'm just speaking for myself, would necessarily connect those two things. What are your long-term hopes for health in the city of Austin and the communities that you serve? Does it go beyond this pilot project with Zavala?
Well, Bishop, I think we would like to see ultimately that schools become kind of primary providers for health services for the families of the kids that go to that school. There's been some experiments, for instance, in Dallas, where they found that children and their families can relate to the schools and get those primary preventive health care services and really learn about health education much better at their school than they can anyplace else. And in fact, it reduces the number of people using emergency services and the number of people going untreated. So we'd like to see it happen all over town.
Joe, I know you have another one of your members who's you've interviewed on this subject. Could we have that tape now?
Yes, I think Teresa Griffin, who's a member of Trinity Presbyterian, is working as chair of our health committee, and I think she has some observations about health in Austin.
Okay.
The poverty level in Austin has doubled in the last 10 years, and part of what we're seeing is that people really can't afford health care. People are worried about paying the rent and putting food on the table, and it's very difficult to make that choice to go and get particularly preventive health care services or services for minor illnesses. So in talking with parents and staff here at Zavala, we identified this as a need. Not only is there a problem with being able to afford it, but also the healthcare clinics are so overwhelmed right now that it's difficult to get in for appointments. It's difficult to make appointments at convenient times. So what we're trying to do is to bring healthcare services here to the school instead of having the children have to go away from school to the health clinic. What we have at this point is the beginning of a partnership between the schools and the healthcare clinics, the city health clinics, where the school is going to have a nurse on site doing immunizations on a regular basis. And in addition to that, the health department is going to do 100 full screenings for children, full health screenings, looking at their developmental and healthcare needs, trying to identify children that have problems that might be affecting their learning. And this will be going on during the 1992-93 school year. Our ultimate goal is to bring even more healthcare services to the school because this is where the kids are most of the time.
Well, that's really very interesting, Joe. I hope you can expand it. Did you have opposition as you tried to bring this into existence? Was there a readiness on the part of the other players to cooperate with you? There's a lot of expense connected with that.
Well, that's really the primary opposition, Bishop, is budgetary constraints. And what we're trying to demonstrate, and I think effectively so, is that preventive and primary care is cost effective. And it makes sense to invest in these young people early on so that they're ready to be productive workers and taxpayers in Austin in 15 or 20 years from now.
I wish you could get that simple statement somehow branded in the consciousness and sensitivity of every one of us, how much money we save by preventing illness, how inexpensive that is. The same thing overflows in terms of education. When we keep a young person in school to make them productive rather than feed them into that segment of our population which in order to survive sees itself dependent on crime. I forget what I don't want to take us off the subject, but it costs a couple of $1,000 a year to give a kid a good education, and it costs $50,000 or $60,000 to keep a person incarcerated. It's a dramatic difference. Well, it's quite an interesting lineup. I know that the two of you are supported by thousands and thousands of other members, but I'd like you to wind up on health, and I want to ask you about something that all of us are very concerned about, and that's safety in our streets, safety in our neighborhoods.
Well, Bishop, one of the things we also find, and again, but I think, Betty, you can help with this, is that families do not come out. They don't participate in community life. They don't vote. They don't do anything if they're too afraid for their safety and security to leave their homes. And so part of what we see is being able to reweave the fabric of society, both in education and healthcare, is to reweave the safety and security of neighborhoods. And so another area that we're working in a number of parts of town is to help parents and community members begin to talk to each other about improving safety and security, working with the police, as instead of making them opponents and people who kind of come in and rush in their cars wielding sticks, but to see them more as allies in the safety and security of their neighborhoods, and to begin to develop strategies of how to prevent crime from happening, because it's likewise much less expensive to prevent crime than it is to pay for it later.
That is correct. It's a working relationship with all the entities of the government to see that we can work together and cause good change.
Well, I want to thank both of you, Betty and Joe, for being here. You're doing a wonderful work that I am solidly supportive of, and I think my co-workers in the churches across this city are really proud of you. And they're working on something that every one of us really want, a safe community, a healthy community, a community made up of well-educated people who are productive, who can provide for themselves, pay taxes in order to build up a safer environment, a safer city, a safer world in which to live. So my heartfelt thanks.